What's going on, guys? It's your boy Sleazy here, and I think this is gonna be one of my longer videos. I'm recording it in multiple pieces, multiple days with a ton of information. But before I actually do all this and get into this video, I do want to say this sounds like I am absolutely blackpilling everybody with this video, and that is not the intent of this video. This video is meant to inspire anybody who watches it, anybody who shares it out and sees this to do something better, to actually work towards something. Because I get, like, even doing the research for this video, it was, we'll just say, quite depressing. Not literally, because I don't want my door kicked in by the fence. And again, they tend to do give people who are depressed somehow manage to get all sorts of firearms. Huh. Maybe I am. Anywho, back to the topic at hand here. Yes, this is going to be a little bit of a black pill, but the outcome isn't to be black pilled. It's to inspire everybody to actually come together, to work together, to do something better, and actually create a better culture that we can thrive in. I'm sick of everybody just, getting a YouTube channel and making a few bucks and, oh, I'm doing okay. No, I want everybody to thrive. I want everybody to take the destruction of our entertainment and of our entire culture and actually create something better out of it. And that is the entire point of this video. So don't go getting doom pilled just yet. Hang in there with me. But before I actually start this video, guys, make sure you check out the links in the description because I do have a promo code for the Dragon's Treasure Tea. Someone who is actually a spurg and quite a big weeb, but is actually doing something to create a business. And, as much as he's terrible at grifting, I will say he is doing something very well. And I do enjoy his teas. I do purchase them. I even bought a teapot from him. What the fuck am I doing with my life? But do check out the Dragon's Treasure Tea. Again, link is in the description below with a discount code. Make sure you use that because if you're anything like me, you hate paying full price. But with that being said, guys, I'm going to get into this video. Make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you share this one out. Please do. But let's get into it. So as I start getting into this, I completely want to address the title of this video as well as define some terminology that I'm going to use throughout this entire video just to make sure it's absolutely clear for everybody what I'm talking about. So first one I want to say is, yes, this is 100% about gatekeeping and how, as much as we say we're winning the culture war, I do not believe we're actually winning anything. And I wholeheartedly believe that because I think I can back that up pretty well. But let's get into the first definitions of the terms I'm going to use here. As far as left and liberals go, it's going to be anybody that associates with the woke ideology. Anybody that's referenced as liberal is going to be part of that. And the way I define the woke ideology and the woke branding is it boils down to quite literally the simplest of ideas. It's Marxist communism that focuses on identity politics. Because we've seen that the woke left quite literally doesn't care that their politicians are millionaires and billionaires, even though they have an annual salary of like $100,000. They don't care about the money. What they care about is how you identify as a person, and that establishes your class ranking in their system. So what they have done is they replaced the ladder of income with ranking in that way. So when I say woke, that is quite literally what I'm referring to. And when I say woke leftists, woke liberals, that is exactly what they are. They put the political identity above all else, and you must conform to that. Or as we've seen, they will harass you, they will cancel you, they will try to assault you, they will do everything in their power to make sure that you bend the knee to that woke ideology. Now, with that defined, I think we can actually start getting into the heart of this video, and that is how conservatives or anybody not woke or anti-woke, anybody to the right of woke, is absolutely terrible at gatekeeping and doesn't actually create anything for the culture that we need to sustain us. Because if we take a look at it, the biggest wins, the biggest dubs that we've had in 2024, and let me just pull this up because I'm going to absolutely roast this person because I think they are the heart of the problem. And part of what I say is the problem is that anybody on the right or that is anti-woke cannot gatekeep to save their lives. And that is going to be Mark Kern, Grums, the total grifter that is the most recent infiltration of the air quotes right culture that does nothing but extracts our resources, our time, and our wealth for nothing but self-profit. And here's what I'm getting at. We are winning so hard this year. Stellar Blade, Black Myth Wukong, and the woke AAA games are failing hard. It's working. What's working? Because regardless of what people think winning is, we have created this political sphere that's really insulated from itself and doesn't actually interact with a majority of people. Like even Matt Walsh. Let's take Matt Walsh as an example. 3 million followers on Twitter. 3 million, multiple millions on other platforms. 3, 4 million, 2.5 million, 1.5 million on pretty much every platform. If we look at that prospectively, he quite literally has a single percent of the US that follows him. And that's assuming that everybody that follows him is based in the US, which we know is not true. So we're talking about a man that we say has extreme influence, but can barely reach a single percentage of the entire US population. How much is he really influencing anybody? Now, granted, those people can share other things out, which is why I say percentage, because 3 million is quite literally 1% of the US population, which might reach out if you share that with 4 or 5 other people. Sure, it can snowball that way, but the reality is it's not. Because the Daily Wire doesn't actually create anything that helps push our culture forward, that doesn't assist in creating new things. And I specifically pulled out Grums and Matt Walsh because I do believe Grums, without a doubt, is 100% pure grift and does not care about anything related to the culture war, right? Because Grums hasn't made anything. Grums took a position as a CEO, ran that company into the ground. Grums isn't right wing because he has been divorced. He has failed to pay child support. Yeah, go look that one up. Now, this one's kind of based, but when you couple it with everything he's done, you're like, nah, he's just kind of a shitty person. Failed to pay taxes. Now, again, if that is all he did, I would say he's completely based. Not paying taxes, bravo, good sir. But when you couple that with him not paying people and stealing people's money, like his video game that's been in development for 8 years that has had no progress on it whatsoever, and is quite literally the exact same thing he put out years ago. And then you start looking at things like his Social Blade, where you can quite literally see he deleted 12,000 tweets. 12,000 tweets in 2021, and then went on his anti-woke arc, which he still won't even respond to. Or we can get into the talk about Mark, where he says he was fired because he didn't take a Chinese bribe. Meanwhile, running the company into the ground and getting fired for that reason is completely unreasonable for us to assume. We can completely say that that's it. And we have multiple instances of Mark Kearns, aka Grums, going off on absolute unhinged tangents. Because the reality is, he's not a based Giga Chad. He is a leftist that has infiltrated our sphere of influence and is milking resources, which is money and attention, for himself while not actually caring. But again, that's why I expect Grums to not respond to my comment on his tweet about 2 games that weren't made in the US that were successful. Nothing has been made in the US that has been successful. But I mean, this goes into the greater point I'm going to make later in this video. So don't focus too hard on me calling, these people who have decided they're right wing, who are not actually making anything, who are raising hundreds of thousands of dollars for themselves and doing absolutely nothing with that money that they said they were going to do. They're just keeping it for themselves. But I mean, this goes into Grums is the small issue here, the small one, because Matt Walsh, again, probably one of the largest and whatever he says most influential person, has repeatedly come out against gamers. A multi-billion-dollar industry in the US, multi-billion-dollar industry, and complained about gamers, saying everything he possibly can to try and make them feel like garbage. Now, this is the same Matt Walsh that I've called a boomer multiple times because that is what he personifies. He personifies a boomer, someone who has 1940s ideologies and is trying to implement them in 2024 where they just don't work. Matt Walsh talking about video games are terrible for humanity, nobody should play them, blah, 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 repeatedly hating on actual culture, things that create culture. Like with this one, and I know it's a couple months old at this point, but we'll talk about this one briefly. Every single Star Wars show or movie for the last 40 years has been mediocre at best. The last decent one was during the first Reagan administration. It's amazing that a franchise can be this unimpressive for this long and yet still maintain a dedicated fan base. The originals were also not great. They don't hold up well at all for people who are not religiously devoted for them. But even if I accept the premise that the originals were cinematic triumphs, still that means that Star Wars franchise has been a fountain of mediocre BS for my entire life. So he's saying one of the most influential, long-running franchises that has probably generated the most money is mediocre at best. And what I would take out of this is Matt Walsh slams everything that people love, people enjoy, but doesn't create anything. He doesn't take that. He's not making culture. Again, just like Grums, he is extracting wealth from all his supporters while not really creating anything. Because regardless of what Matt Walsh has done, regardless of the movies he made, regardless of if they were good or not, they're not changing culture. They're made for his niche audience. That is a fraction of a percent of people that want to go see it. What is a woman? Sure, it was a great niche thing. It made money for Matt Walsh. It was hilarious to watch. But what did it do for the normal people? The other 300 million people? Absolutely nothing, because it was marketed to his niche audience. And let's not pretend like Matt Walsh hasn't attacked people who are sick of the way men are treated as resources by the government and women, and said, suck it up. When you talk about him telling men to just suck it up and get married, when 50% of the men are getting their paychecks cut in half for alimony, for child support, and to say to them, just suck it up and be a man. You just need to hurry up and get married and have kids. What you're telling me is that you don't actually care about the people that follow you and support you and give you money. All you care about is that they create kids who are going to grow up in fatherless homes and pay taxes for the government. That is quite literally what you're saying, whether you believe it or not, and whether you know it or not. And I believe you know that 100%, because if that were the case, you would tell them to find a woman and not settle, instead of, it doesn't matter, just get married and have kids. But again, that's why I call Matt Walsh a boomer, because he has 1940s takes, and it is 2024. Nothing that you espouse actually exists today. But I will give Matt props for at least attempting to make media and get that into theaters. Because at least it did make it to theaters. At least the opportunity there to make something and expand culture that is right of Marxism was there. But again, it doesn't appeal to the normies. That's why they didn't go see it. That's why it's not some massive box office success. And all this actually leads me right into more of the conservative media outlets, the conservative media groups, the conservative grifters, like Glenn Beck, who has banned his daughter from dating gamers. These same Matt Walsh take. So we've got, at this point, we've got the woke left who are telling women to be absolute degenerate thoughts. And then we've got the right-wing commentators. They're the ones who actually have the ear of the political right, telling their daughters not to date men if they play video games. Again, a multi-billion-dollar industry that millions of people, more millions than Glenn Beck and Matt Walsh have combined, play video games. Now, if we take the population, we split it in half between liberal and conservative, we're talking 70 to 100 million people. And the last stat I saw was that about 200 million people in the US play video games at least weekly. At least weekly. I don't know if Glenn Beck understands that he's quite literally just told his daughter not to date 2/3 of the US, but I'm willing to bet the other third are we'll just say 40s and in their 40s and 50s. So he's quite literally trying to get his daughter to date an old guy. That's kind of the implication I'm drawing from his statement here. And I think it's kind of funny, but it's also quite depressing that these are the major speakers who are all about conservative culture, who have, if I'm going to be completely honest, who have conserved absolutely nothing their entire lives. These men are approaching their 40s and they're in their 50s, they're in their 60s, and they have quite literally never conserved a damn thing in the last 60 years. They haven't conserved the First Amendment. The courts sometimes do that, but they sure as hell don't. They're not out there advocating for more free speech. They're just saying free speech should exist. So they're not conserving free speech. The Second Amendment, they're not conserving that at all. Individual states are. But if they were conserving it, I would say 40 out of 50 states would have constitutional carry. But they don't, because they're not actually conserving anything. The sanctity of marriage, again, divorce rate is 50%. But they want to talk about how they need your money to help fight the culture war and preserve conservatism. They sure are happy to take your money, but they will sure as hell turn around and shame you the next second that they think it'll benefit them. And that's where we get into the gatekeeping thing. This is where gatekeeping really comes in here, because these people have not been gatekept. Grums, Glenn Beck, Matt Walsh. I mean, the list goes on. We can talk about Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, how, nobody really investigated him, and turns out he's into swinging, and his daughters are testing positive for coke. Well, let me correct that. At least one daughter tested positive for coke, and he's gone to jail, facing upcoming court cases. We can keep going past him. Let's go to Melanie Mack. Melanie Mack. The predatory female that preys on right-wing men who are into video games. Again, a divorced woman who has openly said she will not marry a man if he's not a virgin, but she is not one, and that's for damn sure. Damn sure. And preaches the Bible, but was sure as hell quick to divorce somebody. That's a person that should have been gatekept. And I would say the quartering, but if we're going to be completely honest, he's a fence sitter who just makes videos, and everybody already knows he just makes whatever the new hot topic is. But if I'm going to reiterate it, the quartering, again, not really creating anything, just more giving you news articles to read. And we did have an amazing opportunity to do something, to actually make culture and support culture and change the way things are done in the US multiple times. And the most recent one I did a video on, Soul Ash 2. Soul Ash 2 was an extremely tiny game, extremely tiny, maybe 100 or 200 sales at the time. For some reason, the woke mob decided they were going to attack him for not including same-sex marriages that resulted in children. That's right. They legitimately think that a male and a male can make a child. A female and a female can make a child. But anyway, he was getting review bombed on Steam. He was on multiple That Park Place. He was bounding into comics. It was popping up all over the place. And it was an awesome opportunity for everybody who claims to be anti-woke and conservative or even center to stand behind this dude and buy his video game. But what actually happened with that? What actually happened to his game that he sells for a whopping $19? Which is a really good game. I do enjoy it. It's a little top-down RPG. It's got a lot of things you can do in it, but it's a 2D game. What happened with his game after everybody threw their support behind him? He peaked at 285 players, which is up from 60. So, 200 people threw their support behind him, and I was one of them because I am willing to put my money where my mouth is and say, yes, if you're a non-woke creator and you're making a video game and they attack you, I will 100% throw money behind you to support you. But if we go to channels like Nerdrotic with 1 million supporters, 1 million people, who again is part of the anti-woke, he tell everybody go check that game out? Did he ever tell everybody go buy it? No. Did anybody who actually heard about this or read these articles or go to these websites buy that game? Only 200 of you did. And that's in stark contrast because we're talking about 200 people willing to throw $19 at somebody who's actually making a video game versus the left who still have billion-dollar companies pumping out their propaganda. We can't even muster 500 or 1,000 people to support a single dev. But Grums will come out there and say, but Black Myth Wukong, a Chinese developer who, well, in case you aren't aware, because it sounds like you aren't, China hates the US. China would absolutely go to the war with the US if they thought they could win. China does not give a single shit about the US. In fact, they are part of the problem that is exacerbating the woke mob so that they can weaken the US. But Black Myth Wukong sure was a dub for the woke conservatives. We just funneled multiple millions of dollars into China. Or Korea, God bless Korea, Stellar Blade, making a phenomenal game. Phenomenal. It's quite literally what every dude gamer wanted to play. Again, Korea. We just funneled resources out of the US for boobs in Korea. But we can't muster that support for indie creators. And the entire point of me bringing up all these topics, it is not to blackpill you. It's to show you that how little we're actually doing. That the entire year of 2024, the only good things we got were Deadpool and Wolverine, a Chinese video game, and a Korean video game. It's not to blackpill you and to say there's no hope. It's to give you the truth pill that nobody is coming to save us. I love Geeks and Gamers. I love Nerdrotic. I do love their channels. I support a lot of them. I'm a member to them. I know some of you have seen me in their chats. If you're watching this video, you have seen me in there. I go on Ryan's show. I'm a hardcore RK Outpost fan. I go on to Ryan's show. I have my own channel. I think reaching out via your channel is good. But you have to do something with this. And let's talk about these big communities and how many people have been on all their channels talking about, go check out my YouTube channel. It's like, okay, I do. You're repeating the same talking points. What are you doing? Well, I've got a YouTube channel. Okay, you're taking money from people, but what are you doing? And the only people who have done stuff they do stuff for their fans, right? So let's talk about Eric July. Young Rippa makes a comic book. It does phenomenally well. He makes millions of dollars. But it's a niche comic for his fans, for people who already support him. It hasn't reached out into the sphere. It hasn't reached out in a way that actually creates and reinforces a culture. It is a comic book for his fans. Drunk 3PO, the most lovable retarded bear in the world. Our famous Canadian bear makes his own graphic novel. I own 2 copies of it. I paid to get them both signed. I think they're fantastic. But again, the reach didn't go out. It was for his fans. And, I mean, let's talk about Epic Mike and Josiah. The Epic verse. They're making stuff. But what's the reach going to be? Sure, people might pay to see the video. People might buy the DVD, whatever it is. But we're just consuming. We're not propagating the culture at all. Right? We got the T-Man. Again, I referenced him. I've got his promo code in the description below. He runs his own tea company. He seems to be doing okay. He's making money. But something he said really bothered me. When he made a video about Grumps. And he only talked about his video game extortion scheme where he just, I'm going to make this awesome game. It's going to be, fantastic. And then took hundreds of thousands of dollars and never made it for 8 years. He said, give me the money and I will make something. That really bothered me. Give me money and then I'll make something for you. In stark contrast to something I've mentioned maybe twice. Once on Ryan Cannell's show, RK Outpost. And I may have mentioned it because I don't even think I did. I might have. That I'm working on developing a video game. We've got a lot of the core mechanics down. We threw some basic skins on things just so you can differentiate while we're doing our pre-alpha test. The game's functional. It's not where me and the person I'm working with want it to be, which is why I haven't really talked about it before. But the fundamentals are there. The last part is making it look pretty so people actually want to see it. I would absolutely love to just create the video game and have 500,000 people play it. Hell, I'd settle for 10,000. 10,000 would be fantastic. But I know with my channel, once I get found out, that game is going to be harassed. Me linked to a video game is more than likely going to result in a video game getting harassed. Because as we can see with Soul Ash here, it wasn't a big video game. And it got harassed. And sure, a bunch of people might come to my defense on Twitter and YouTube. But we need to support further than putting out tweets on Twitter. We always talk about how we're the better group to be with. But why? You don't support the video games. You don't really support anything. And this is what I'm saying. You need to be the group that makes the new culture. Because tearing down everything that exists right now doesn't leave anything for anybody. You need to be part of the solution. You need to go out there, create video games, create things that people want to do. And then when those people do it, because not everybody's going to be able to do that. I completely understand. Not everybody wants to make video games, but when they do, fucking buy the video game, buy the comic book, go buy tickets to the movie, bring your friends along. Because regardless how terrible the woke mob is, they absolutely back up their side. They will eat cans of cat food to save money, to throw money to their cause. I mean, the rare exception to that was Concord and Dustborn, but really, that's it. They do absolutely throw money. I mean, let's not forget that they threw millions of dollars at BLM, who did nothing for them and are still throwing money at BLM while they live in mansions. I mean, that is quite literally what we're up against. We are up against people who will starve themselves to death to make sure their movement has money to make the things they want. But our side can't even muster up enough to do something outside of a tweet for people who are creating stuff. And when you have one side that's destroying everything and replacing it with their own propaganda, and then you have the non-woke side who isn't really making much of anything. I hate to tell you, but one's going to be there and one's not. And everybody that's growing up now is only going to know the propaganda and will never have anything else. But I think we've done this to ourselves because we have allowed people to say they're anti-woke, like Grumps, and we just throw anything they want at them. Oh, you want all the attention? You want money? Here's hundreds of thousands of dollars. Well, he said the right things. But anybody who looked at Grumps, because Grumps didn't really blow up until this year, who took a look at what he was doing, would have asked why. In January of 2021, he deleted 13,000 tweets. Nearly 13,000 tweets. That takes time and effort. Or would have looked into his video game in 2021 and said, hey, this video game has been in development for 5 years at this point, and you haven't posted any updates, but you had all these GoFundMes, all these fundraisers, raised hundreds of thousands of dollars, but there's no updates on the game. You would have asked that. You would have asked that in 2024. 8 years later, I want to see everybody right of woke, whether it be center or right, actually support things, actually create things, actually do things. I actually buy people's games when they say they're making one. I might not enjoy the game. I might really love the game, but I don't know until I've bought it and played it. Again, I bought Soul Ash 2. He was getting attacked. I looked at it. I said, I'll give it a try. He got my money. Rippa, Eric July, when he said he had goals for building up an entire comic space. Okay. I see you doing it. I see you have the product. I'll buy it. I mean, it's still relatively new, but it seems like the only people buying his comics are his fans. And good for him for actually creating something. I'm not hating on Eric July because he made a comic book. I think it's fantastic he did. But I don't think the reach is where it needs to be. It's not being marketed in a correct way that actually expands the base. But I'm glad he's doing well. I'm glad he actually created something. Now, look, it would be remiss of me to talk about Eric July and the business empire he is making for this small section of the internet and not talk about EVS. Ethan Van Sciver. The man that had so much potential, but squandered it on internet drama because of ego. Yeah, I think it's just ego. Now, look, with talking about EVS, I'm going to ignore all the BS drama as much as I can. The actual BS drama, ignoring the Skid Row female on video with him smoking a metal pipe. Yes, I know that exists. I'm not dumb. But we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how this man should have been gatekept, and nobody did it up until recently. Recently is only when he started getting serious pushback from major people, and even the major people who are have these huge channels aren't really saying anything about it. Right? So Evie has 32 campaigns on his Indiegogo. 32. You think he'd have 32 comic books out the gate? No, he doesn't. He has a handful of comics. And I literally mean a handful. Like nothing spectacular. But it has collected well over $500,000, I believe. But he's not giving anything to anybody. He made All Caps Comics. He's part of Comicsgate. He has the YouTube channel where he brings aspiring comic artists. And the second they don't beg, which is why he hates Ripa so much, he kicks them out of the group. And he expects most of them to flounder because he used to have a following who would absolutely cut those people off. But over the years, people have come to realize he's a worthless piece of garbage that infiltrated the right side and said the words that everybody wanted to hear and nobody questioned it. Not a single person questioned it. And then when people would speak up, when I would complain about, hey, I haven't got my action figure in 4 years. Now, granted, this was 4 years ago at this point, so it's been about 8 years. 8 years ago, from 2024, is when I placed the order. And I only got it 4 years later. But he was running all sorts of other campaigns, all sorts of other stuff for accessories, trying to get more money out of people. Which is kind of really when I was like, this is bullshit. This is part of the reason why a lot of people don't get my money, but I'll be in their chats. That they're getting a view, I'm listening to what they have to say, but they haven't proven anything that would give me a reason to support them. At least with Ryan's channel, although he's not doing anything outside of his channel that I see of worth, he does give other people the opportunity to do the same thing he had. Which again boils down to me using my channel to funnel funds into projects so that I can make things for people that they can enjoy and share that aren't specific to, EVS saying we're anti-woke while doing exactly what the woke does. And then, that's the gist of this. Ethan Van Sciver is a grifter who says the right words that people want to hear, got a shit ton of money, and then abandoned them and never provided anything to anybody that paid for this stuff. But if somebody had taken a step back and looked, and by somebody, I do mean the big creators that have had them on their channels, that interact with him, that propped up his business, had taken a small step back and looked at what everybody was saying about him, it would have never gotten to this point where we have 32 campaigns and 6 or 7 comic books. And this is the nerd community here. And it's the same thing as what I'm about to talk about with Jack Murphy. The Red Pill Giga Chat that was on Tim Pool's show. A 1 million sub channel. Tim gave him the platform because he was supposed to be this super ultra right Giga Chat who wrote Democrat to Deplorable, was all about being absolutely based and being traditional and being a man, and how quickly that unraveled because of a super chat that somebody read on the Blaze. But again, that's proven my point exactly. People knew this was going on. People were speaking out about it. But it took someone reading a super chat on someone else's channel before it came to the fore. Whereas if everybody had taken a step back and looked, they would have found out that he had scammed school systems, taken money from school systems. The same thing we complain about how school systems are corrupt, how he was making 18 plus content where he was inserting things into himself. Again, this super based Trad Giga Chad who was writing articles about how being a cuck is a good thing and how about sending your wife and your girlfriend to go screw other dudes while you sat at home and wrote articles about how it was so fantastic for yourself. If one of the people would have listened to the people who signed up for his liminal order, the $100 a month thing, where it was supposed to be helping men become the absolute chads they were destined to be. If someone had looked into all the complaints about that, they would have found out that it was all a scam, and all it was you paid him $100 a month to get access to ads for literally anything that would give him a cut of the profits. But nobody took the smallest amount of time to look into any of this. They just gave him platform after platform after platform to shill his wares. At least I tell my chat, I promise you absolutely nothing. Like, I promise you nothing. But here's what I'm working on. But Tim Pool, million sub channel, gave him the platform and branched out from there. And don't get me wrong, I think Tim does some fantastic things with the money he made from his YouTube channel. The skate park stuff, doing competitions, teaching people to do other things. I think that's all actually fantastic. I think that's one of the few things that Tim does that is actually good for society. And he runs it off his Grift podcast that he recently had a meltdown on and might not be doing for much longer. But it's Tim. It might have been for attention, so I'll probably keep doing it. But it's like, I want to hate Tim for his YouTube channel, but he legitimately takes that money and reinvests it into creating more of a culture that the US can sustain, and not letting just the woke tards take over everything and saying, well, I'm talking about it on YouTube. Like, doing stuff. I absolutely, again, I hate Tim for his YouTube channel, but I like what he's doing with the money, so it's kind of one of those catch-22s. Drunk 3PO, Jay. Loved his graphic novel. Again, it was pretty much only marketed to his fan base. It was only in the G&G and Neurotic circle. Glad it did well. I'm glad he's making a second one. But it's like, nobody has any marketing skills, and the people supporting them don't really support them. And that's the entire point of this video. So we need to gatekeep harder. We actually need to stop people from infiltrating our side and stealing our resources. We need to shut people like Matt Walsh up whenever he tries to do the all gamers are bad, quit dating gamers. Shut up and get married. Who cares if you get divorced and ruin your life? With people who are actually more in line with our standards. Not women looking for attention online. They don't deserve our money. They're quite literally one step below OnlyFans. The only reason they interact with you is because you give them attention. As long as you give them attention, they'll keep doing it. We've seen a little bit from the Epic verse. Again, I'm a little bit more relaxed with what Mike's doing, because scripting, filming, editing, that takes a lot of time. I would love to see it take off, but I'm not sure the Epic verse has the reach to be successful with the way the community is now. If Mike asked me today, hey, Sleazy, what do you think about us continuing with this? We don't have a ton of numbers, but what do you think of us continuing with this? I'd say do it anyway. Get it out there. I mean, you look around the community, everybody's trying to make their own YouTube channel. And that's all they're doing. Oh, I made a YouTube channel. I'm making a community. The fuck does that even mean? You're not creating anything. You're taking people, telling them what they want to hear. And granted, I think a lot of these people do believe what they say. But if I'm looking at this in the way I think we should be, they're taking people's money, telling them what they want to hear, and giving them nothing of substance in return. At least my members are more than welcome to watch movies for free with me on Friday nights. I take the money that people give me, and it goes into making more streams, funding video games, funding video game development, actually funding people who are creating stuff. Part of the reason I stayed out of most of the drama and most of everybody going over all this other bullshit is it's all bullshit. It's high school drama. I'm more popular. No, I'm just as popular as you are. Yeah, 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 fight, fight, fight. I don't care about it. I want to talk to everybody who watches about the topics I want to talk about. Last week I didn't make videos. I went to Asia and I was like, you know what? This is, everybody thinks it's the third world country. Everybody lives in slums. I showed everybody a four-story mall with a beachfront view that had an entire amusement park behind it. Why? Why would I do that on a channel where I normally talk about entertainment? Because there's other things out there. There's plenty to do. There's plenty to make. There's plenty of room to actually do things. The only thing I'm disillusioned with is the lack of support for everybody, for the Epic verse, for Rippa, for Drunk 3PO, for all these indie game devs. They get harassed and they get backed up on Twitter. They get good comments in their YouTube section. But where's the support for them? I mean, again, Stellar Blade. Quite literally Dark Souls light with an Asian with big tits and a big ass. Great game for 2024. So again, like I said, this video isn't to black pill people. It's to try to encourage you to go out and make stuff. When somebody does make something, support it. Share it out. Talk to people at a bar about it. I know you people go out. I know you're not paranoid shut-ins eating cat food in your parents' basement. Go out, make things. Sell it to as many people as you can. Because that's what will actually change the culture. Because I said it before in this video. The woke is making a ton of stuff just so it exists. The right's not making anything. It's just complaining. But we have the people with the knowledge, the skills, and the sanity to do it all. And I hate to kind of quote Matt Walsh after I bashed him about him saying, just get married. It doesn't matter. Just go make something. Make something you enjoy. And then market the shit out of it. Sell it to as many people as you can. But I think that's the overall problem with the right and the center. They expect someone else to do the work for them. And then when someone does the work, they don't want to support it. Skip a fast food meal. Skip a Starbucks. Skip a coffee. Buy someone's video game. Buy a friend a video game. Buy some of these comic books. Talk to people about the video games. Talk to people about the comic books. Talk to normies about the Epic verse. Don't talk about Mike. Don't talk about Josiah. Don't talk about Gary. Don't talk about any of them. Just, hey, look at this movie. Hey, look at this movie trailer. Dude, have you seen this new movie studio? Look what they got in the works. Because if Jeremy could say, I'm just not going to have a political coffee company and market the shit out of it the way he does, and it seems to be doing very well, you can do that with a video game, a multi-billion-dollar industry that 200 million people in the US play. Go do it. Go do something. But yes, this is pretty much what I spent the last week writing. Why I didn't make videos is I wanted to actually make something, go over the details, and try and show people that we're kind of in a black pill spot right now. But it's up to us to create the white pill, to go and make it better. So go do it. But that's it, guys. I would absolutely love to hear your responses in the comments section because, again, like I said in the video, I'm using the funds for this to make things for everybody else. I might keep a little for myself to buy a new keyboard or a mouse. But the overall goal of this is to make money and funnel it into other things. I've got a script. I would love to shoot it. I would love to turn it into a short little 30, 45-minute movie. Turn it over to Epic Mike and be like, hey, I got a movie ready to go. Tell me what you think. Throw it in the Epic verse. That's what I want to take out of this YouTube channel. I want to take the money and create things and then give it back to you guys. But leave your thoughts in the comments section. I'm sure this is going to be one of the most controversial videos I've ever made. But I would greatly appreciate sharing this out because I think everybody needs to hear the truth on this. But again, make sure you smash that like button. And till the next one, guys, be easy like sleazy.